This is Right to Life Radio, a production of Right to Life of Central California. And now, here's your host, John Girardi.
Well, Gavin Newsom's attack on Walgreens for having the temerity to want to follow state laws in the various states where distributing the abortion pill is illegal, it's looking even dumberer every single day. Joining us to cover it is the CEO of the California Family Council, Mr. Jonathan Keller. What's up, Jonathan?
It is good to be back here, John, even on a day. I have to say, I have maybe a overdeveloped sense of Schadenfreude with anything that happens to Gavin Newsom being bad.
Yeah.
But I'm not sorry.
You're not sorry. Well,
Nope.
Good. All right. Well, let's talk about what, for those of you from Rio Linda, Schadenfreude is the German word for the feeling of joy you get at the misfortune of others. And so Schadenfreude at Gavin Newsom's expense is always fun.
And it's kind of like Schadenfreude at Gavin Newsom's expense is really any misfortune for Gavin Newsom. I mean, in a policy sense. I mean,
It's very
I hope
often
his kids are healthy. And
Yeah,
that is,
sure,
But policy misfortune in his case is fortune for everybody else.
Usually, certainly for the pro-life cause. Now, what are we talking about? Gavin Newsom made headlines the other week by declaring that the state of California was going to no longer do business with Walgreens after Walgreens decided that they were not going to distribute the abortion pill in certain I guess, pro-life states in which the attorneys general of those states had written to Walgreens saying, hey, it's illegal in this state to distribute abortion pills. Don't do it. Walgreens declared that they would comply with those demands from the attorneys general of those states. And Gavin Newsom flipped out over it. He shoots out a bunch of tweets saying, this is terrible. Walgreens is caving in to all these bullies, these pro-life bullies, making them, uphold the law. And as a result, we're not going to do any more business with Walgreens. Newsom then goes on to announce that the state of California is pulling out of a $54 million contract that the state has with Walgreens to provide prescription drugs for inmates within the California state correctional system. It's now coming out that it's not just that Walgreens was afraid of upholding was doing this out of deference to pro-life lawmakers. Their supplier literally cannot provide them with the abortion drugs. So Jonathan, who apparently gets push notifications from Apple News about this thing like a psycho, was the first to bring this to our attention. You are.
I'm dealing with the deluge of mobile notifications as a favor to the Right to Life Radio audience.
Well, that's fair. All right, Jonathan. So take this away. So what's going on with the abortion pill and the suppliers for the abortion pill?
So the title of this article from Vox News is the sole U.S. supplier of a major abortion pill said it would not distribute the drug, John, not to 21 states, but to 31 states.
By the way, that's Vox News, not Fox News.
No.
This is not Jonathan trying to say Fox News with a Russian accent.
Vox News.
Welcome to Fox News. Vox
VOX.
VOX, Vox, which is an incredibly left-wing media outlet. And the home for our favorite legal commentator, Ian Millhiser, who is this legal commentator who's known for his completely alarmist, unhinged takes about the Supreme Court. Anyway, so Vox has this story in which they reveal that actually the supplier who's supposed to be supplying Walgreens with the abortion pill cannot provide it to them in 31 different states. So dig into that a little bit more, John.
So this is the opening two paragraphs of the story. It says, earlier this month, Politico broke news that Walgreens, the nation's second largest pharmacy chain, assured 21 Republican attorneys general that it would not dispense abortion pills in their states should the company be approved to dispense them. The decision was met with sharp protest by Walgreens customers, abortion rights activists, and Democrats, but I repeat myself. Who accused the pharmacy of caving needlessly to pressure. And John, this is how it was originally framed. That first paragraph was, I can't believe that Walgreens is so scared of these regressive conservative attorneys general in red states, in pro-life states. They're backing down. They're
so afraid of breaking very clear laws in these various states and not wanting to get into a massive legal challenge in which we're contesting the FDA's authority versus that of different states.
Well, and that was essentially the way that Newsom tried to frame it. He said, California, in his tweet from a couple weeks ago, he literally actually tweeted this the day of the California March for Life, March 6th.
Oh, there you go.
California won't be doing business with Walgreens or any company that cowers to the extremists and puts women's lives at risk. We're done, Newsom tweeted. So that was how they tried to frame it. Was Walgreens just doesn't have enough courage. They don't have the backbone to fight for women.
Right. And it's basically Newsom is expressing this like expectation that Walgreens wants to wage a massive legal battle and legal challenge that could go all the way to the Supreme Court about whether or not states have the right to ban a drug that's approved by the FDA that's within interstate commerce. It's almost like marijuana, but the reverse. It's like marijuana is like banned by the FDA, but individual states legalize it. This is almost sort of the reverse. Now, I'm not going to come out here and say Walgreens are some kind of heroes for not doing this. It seems like their reasons for not doing it are
it's mostly CYA.
It's a CYA,
not the kids, as the old say.
As the old folks say, as us old folks say. So it's a bit of a CYA on their part. They don't want to run afoul of the law in these pro-life states. They don't think it's necessarily their crusade to wage, seemingly, that, well, we have to fight for the right of patients to abort their babies. Well, no, it doesn't seem to be it. They also seem to be having supply chain issues of actually getting the abortion pills in stock.
And that's the second paragraph from this Vox article written by Rachel M. Cohen. It says, but fear of state prosecution is not the only factor shaping Walgreens' decision-making. Another previously unreported constraint on the company is that its sole supplier of Mifeprex, the brand name drug for the abortion pill mifepristone, first approved by the Food and Drug Administration in 2000, Mifeprex, the provider, circulated a list to its corporate clients in January, naming 31 states that it would not supply the abortion medication to. Fox spoke with two sources who had reviewed that list recently. So, John, a full 10 states more than Walgreens, which is interesting to me. It makes me wonder how is Walgreens able to supply, if it is literally the sole supplier, it actually makes me wonder, so is Walgreens, were they actually already kind of trying to break the law? Were they basically saying, well, we'll just over-order a bunch of pills for California, and then we'll kind of discreetly shuttle these to states where the distributor is not going to do it.
Maybe they're thinking in terms of like, let's just get a bunch in California and then expect everyone to come to California, or maybe expect that people will mail them from California.
Well, no, because Walgreens' list was only 21 states. So there's this weird phantom 10 states. How does Walgreens get the pills for the 10 states that they say they will supply to, but their distributor will not supply to?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe by overdoing it in California or something. Yeah. So in short, this whole story is ridiculous because you need to have the broader context. All right. Here's Newsom throwing this absolute hissy fit over Walgreens, which seems to be in this complex situation about whether they can even get these abortion pills to begin with. He makes this comment, oh, you're putting women's lives at risk. You're putting women's lives at risk by not providing the abortion pill. When in actuality, this regulation letting pharmacies distribute the abortion pill is 5 minutes old. Like this was a regulation the Biden administration issued only like a couple months ago. And I don't think any pharmacies have actually started yet even distributing the abortion pill. So the idea that this is putting you're putting women's lives at jeopardy.
And John, again, I have to say this is a huge amount of fortunate circumstances for the pro-life cause and for unborn children. And I think you can tell the thinly veiled rage coming through this piece because, again, that paragraph I just read, a previously unreported constraint is that the sole supplier of Mifeprex, and then it says in parentheticals, it says the brand name drug that was first approved by the FDA in 2000.
Right.
So their point being here, this has been approved for 23 years, and there's a sole supplier for the entire country.
So they're all ticked at this.
They are.
Yeah.
I mean, because you think of almost anything else. If you have a lot of other drugs that are generic drugs,
Yeah.
there are tons of
Generic
places.
acetaminophen.
Well, generic instead of, or even generic Viagra or Cialis or whatever it is. You can get off-label stuff from any old pharmacy.
You can get off-label Viagra. What are
I
you
don't know
talking
this
about?
from personal experience. I
just wanted to.
I'm saying all the emails in my spam assure me that it is extremely easy to get these things.
All the ads that keep popping up
That's
on
right.
Facebook. Yeah. Yeah.
Somehow they know that I'm a 40-year-old male and they think that I want access to these things.
Amazing the kind of targeted advertising
That's
that
right.
old Elon Musk is pioneering over there at Twitter. Anyway, and Mark Zuckerberg over in Facebook. Now, so it even more though just makes Gavin Newsom out to be just a complete crazy person. And I think we discussed this last week. I think Gavin Newsom is really playing for an audience of about 20 people. I think he is basically has taken this approach of, there's a lot of people on the right who will criticize certain political figures on the right for being culture warriors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've heard this expression. Oh, he's engaging in these culture wars. Oh, he's just a culture warrior. He's
like New York Times columnists will call out conservatives. For,
exactly. For being
the conservative columnist at the New York Times.
The conservative columnists at the New York Times, who are also not very conservative. And it's this term that has a lot of like kind of negative connotations to it. Like you're not concerned with like the real realities of everyday hardworking Americans. All you care about is fighting about these social issues, which, I would argue these social issues are also very important and in fact affect the lives of everyday Americans quite a bit. Gavin Newsom is the perfect ideal of the left-wing culture warrior.
Yes.
And when we return, we're going to dig into that. Who is Gavin Newsom's target audience? Who are the people he's really trying to placate and entertain? We will dig into that next. John Girardi with Right to Life Radio with Jonathan Keller. We'll be right back. Gavin Newsom still continuing to throw his hissy fit over Walgreens not providing the abortion pill in certain states. In some states, because the laws in those states prohibit the distribution of abortion pills. In other states, because their supplier can't bring them the abortion pill. And Newsom is going so far as to throw out a $54 million contract with Walgreens. And it makes me think, I think Gavin Newsom is really just playing for this very, very tiny audience. This tiny audience of about 30 people. And I think some understanding of Gavin Newsom's background is appropriate. Okay, so how did Gavin Newsom get into politics? And this will all relate to the abortion issue. Just bear with me. Okay, how did Newsom get into politics? With his shining white veneer-covered teeth and his slicked back hair, how did he get in? Well, he was lifelong family friends with the Gettys. Okay, that Getty family, the Getty oil family Gettys. His dad was a lawyer for the Getty Oil Company and eventually became a judge. And Newsom grew up with Gordon Getty. His name sounds a lot like Gordon Gekko and makes you think of Wall Street, blah, blah, blah. So he grew up alongside Gordon Getty. Gordon Getty's a gazillionaire. Gordon Getty invested in like every business that Gavin Newsom had prior to his career in politics. Some of Gavin Newsom's businesses, which, by the way, were clients of Silicon Valley Bank, which just got a nice little federal bailout. So there you go. Newsom was commenting very favorably on that bailout. Without
all who you know.
Didn't mention that his businesses invested there. Anyway, so Gordon Getty invests in all Newsom's businesses. Getty introduces Newsom to Willie Brown, the mayor of San Francisco, longtime speaker of the California State Assembly, and a true kingmaker in California politics, whose two greatest and most successful proteges were Gavin Newsom, became governor of California, and Kamala Harris, currently the vice president of the United States. And both of them benefited from Brown's political connections and political patronage. Getty introduces Gavin Newsom to Willie Brown. Willie Brown introduces Newsom to his broader circle of ultra-gazillionaire donors, of whom Getty is one. And Newsom rides these connections, he makes all these acquaintances, makes these connections. Finally, Willie Brown appoints Gavin Newsom to be a San Francisco County supervisor. And then so he's appointed to his first big political position as a San Francisco, not an insignificant job, by the way, being a county supervisor. Good pay, no term limits. Make basically county level decisions, sort of like a city council, but for our county.
The sprawling, huge county of San Francisco.
Yeah, which I think I'm a little confused about how the county government of San Francisco works. I think it might just be the city itself is the county government or something. Anyway, so Newsom gets appointed to that position. He then successfully runs for mayor of San Francisco. And with this backing, because, I really think this is true in Democrat statewide politics. Nobody's elected. Everyone is selected. I think if you get the big money backing in the Democrat primary, then that's who winds up winning the Democrat primary. And in a statewide race, the Democrat's always going to win. Like a Republican has not won a statewide election in California since Governor Schwarzenegger, I believe, was reelected.
That is correct. 2006 is the last time any Republican statewide has won in California.
Right. So Newsom was selected by this group to be the lieutenant governor, and he was selected by this group to be the governor. So he owes his whole political career to this group of ultra bazillionaire Democrat donors. His whole career was kind of, the whole way was paved for him by these connections. And if Gavin Newsom has any future ambition, for a higher office, whether that be if a California Senate seat were ever to open up, or the more likely thing he's gunning for, if the White House were ever a possibility, including as several little birdies are sort of floating the idea that if Joe Biden decides not to run, then Gavin Newsom might decide to run. Newsom said he's not going to challenge Biden, but if Biden was kind of the word on the street was Biden was supposed to announce his candidacy back in February. He didn't. Looks like they're shooting for April. Why is he delaying? Every day he sets the record anew for oldest president in American history. Is he going to announce? Is he not going to announce? Could Newsom run for president again? Well, his fortune in running for president depends on the goodwill of this same group of gazillionaire donors. Okay, because these people are also, while they are the kingmakers in California electoral politics, they are also hugely significant kingmakers in national Democratic politics. So I think Newsom at this point, he doesn't need to get reelected in California again. He's never going to get recalled again. That was a disaster for the Republicans. So whom does he have to placate? Whom does he have to serve? I think he's doing stuff that makes no sense, yelling about Ron DeSantis all the time, yelling about Greg Abbott all the time, not at all anywhere in the job description of a California governor. He's just, and then tossing a hissy fit, these sort of culture war, like all the worst connotations you get of a culture warrior, someone who's only concerned about like feudal gestures and showboating and grandstanding and showing off how morally virtuous they are. That's what Newsom's doing with the abortion issue. He's just adopting the most extreme positions he can possibly take, the most impractical, crazy positions he can possibly take. Why? I think it's because this crowd of ultra billionaires, they eat it up. They absolutely love it. Like this is the kind of thing that is just pure red meat for them.
So, John, if I could draw a parallel, and I hope I don't offend some of our loyal listeners, but in a certain sense, Gavin Newsom is taking a page from the Trump playbook.
Oh my gosh!
All right.
Let's see if you can land this plane here.
So, one of the things that
in the next 2 minutes,
I would oftentimes hear people say, when look, I want to clarify again, we are wearing our 501c3 hats.
We are wearing 501c3 compliant hats.
So I will say, as I take off that hat and I say, as an individual citizen, I will say that I am grateful for many of the pro-life policies that President Trump enacted.
Mhm.
But I think that even some of the most ardent supporters of President Trump would agree that occasionally he shot himself in the foot a little bit.
Okay. All right.
That is a fair statement.
Okay. All right.
But whenever that would happen,
As the crowd comes
Yes.
storming the Right to Life offices with
pitchforks and
pitchforks.
torches.
Anyway. All right.
But whenever that would happen, and whenever I'd be like, oh my gosh, and I'd be wanting to tear my hair out after something that got tweeted or a press conference or something, my good dear friends who are hardcore MAGA Trump supporters, what was the thing that they would almost always say? Even if a policy, like I think something with the census, the census got thrown out by the court and you get frustrated. Or the always response that people said all the time was, well, yes, but he fights.
Right.
Look, he had the best of intentions, and at least he's punching back.
He's punching back.
He's punching back at those bad folks on the other side that we disagree with.
Right.
And I think to a certain degree, in Donald Trump's case, his audience was not 30 people; it was 30 million people.
Right.
It was
a lot of core Republican voters, whereas Newsom's audience, he wants to appeal to 30 people who are saying he fights.
Right.
He fights. Look at him fighting.
And that's, hey, look at this. He's going out and he's sticking it to Walgreens. He's sticking it to those regressive anti-choice people.
Jonathan, you landed that airplane. I didn't think you could do it.
I'm just saying.
But by gum, this is some high quality radio we got going right here. All right. When we return, we're going to highlight a big case out of the Northern District of Texas, something that could be decided very soon in the days ahead. Will a federal judge, a single federal judge, declare the abortion pill to be illegal, unlawfully approved by the FDA? That is next on Right to Life Radio, a production of Right to Life Essential California, rtlcc.org. Hey, if you want to join us at Right to Life Essential California, we have an awesome educational event coming up on Thursday, March 30th. I almost said April 30th, after also almost saying June 30th. Thursday, March 30th at the St. Paul Catholic Newman Center in Fresno at Cedar and Barstow. We will be hosting Gianna Jessen for a talk and our educational dessert. So Gianna Jessen is a great pro-life speaker. She testified a whole bunch of times in Congress in the Bush administration when they were debating the Partial Birth Abortion Ban Act. You'll want to hear her story, her testimony. It's a great educational event. If you want to learn more, go to righttolifeca.org/events, and you can sign up. We just want to get kind of a head count so we know how much dessert to bring for the event. I will give a strong plug. We had, John, I think you may have been away at college,
Notre Dame, maybe?
Possibly.
But we actually had Gianna Jessen come and speak at Holy Spirit Catholic Church way back in October of 2006.
Oh, no way.
If you can believe it.
Okay.
So that was
I can't believe it, but still.
A whopping 17 years ago. It was,
holy cow.
I remember Julie and
Were you director yet, or not quite yet?
I was youth outreach coordinator at that point.
Okay.
So I was still doing that. Julia and I, my lovely wife, we were dating, but we were not engaged, I don't think, at that point.
Okay. Well, there you go.
But she did an amazing job. So she is a phenomenal speaker, one of the best.
Yes.
She doesn't have, I think, the name ID that some people do, but don't let that stop you, folks. You should come out and hear.
Yeah.
She is a phenomenal speaker.
Yes. Gianna Jessen, Thursday, March 30th at the St. Paul Catholic Newman Center, also the church where I was baptized. So there we go. All right. Let's shift gears. Let's go to Texas. Going to Texas, going to the Northern District of Texas, where there is a federal court case going on, is having a hearing this week regarding the Food and Drug Administration and their approval of the abortion pill. And this is a case filed by our friends at Alliance Defending Freedom on behalf of a number of doctors, on behalf of a number of doctors, medical associations. They filed this in the Northern District of Texas, which is some classic forum shopping, if you will. There are a couple of these. So the federal court system is divided up into different districts. So we in Fresno live in the Eastern District of California. And the Northern District of Texas. So every one of these districts has a certain number of federal judges that hear all the cases in that district, and these judges are nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate. The Northern District of Texas is notorious for being one of the most conservative judicial districts in the country. I think every single judge was appointed by a Republican, was nominated by a Republican president. It's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum from the District of Hawaii or the Northern District of California, which have all super hard left Clinton or Obama judges. So what happened quite a bit during the Trump administration was if there was some controversial Trump executive order or Trump policy, Democrats would try to file federal lawsuits against those policies, try to get an injunction to prevent their enforcement, basically a court order from a judge saying, hey, stop enforcing this. That's what an injunction is. And they would usually file those lawsuits. I mean, they were nationwide policies, so they impacted everyone everywhere. So they would do what's called forum shopping.
Would you say they affected everyone everywhere all at once?
I still have no idea what that movie is. I'm outraged that Top Gun did not win anything at the Academy Awards.
I'm sorry.
There was no way that any movie was better than Top Gun.
I realize
I'm
this
furious.
is a serious policy discussion, but you lobbed it right there. I
just
had to make
furious.
an Oscars joke.
Whatever. I'm just furious. Oh, yeah. What's harder? They're filming F-18s in flight or,
Yes.
whatever.
Lots of special effects.
Banshees of Inisherin, a.k.a. Irish people complaining. All right. Anyway, moving on.
Texas.
All right. So sometimes what lawyers will do to try to find a more favorable judge and get a favorable outcome, they will do what's called forum shopping, where they find the judicial district that would be most favorable to them and they file their lawsuit there. ADF is filing this lawsuit in the Northern District of Texas, which is very favorable. Now, this case is in front of a Trump appointee judge named Matthew Kaczmarek, who is one of the most conservative federal judges possibly in the entire country. And the case is basically a challenge to the FDA's approval of the abortion pill. Now, why is that? Basically, the abortion pill is a drug that was approved by the FDA in a rush process in the year 2000. And if you go back, we did an interview, I think it was 1 or 2 months ago, with Melanie Israel from the Heritage Foundation. And we interviewed her about the whole regulatory process surrounding the abortion pill and how basically from the minute he took office in January of 1993 all the way through the end of his term in the waning months of the year 2000, when they weren't sure if Bush or Gore was going to win the election, President Clinton did everything possible to get the abortion pill approved and brought over from France, I believe, to the United States. Now, the plaintiffs in this lawsuit today are arguing that the FDA, in that initial decision okaying the abortion pill, and again, let's just reiterate for people, this is not the morning after pill. This is not Plan B. This has been marketed as Plan C. So up to 10 weeks into a pregnancy, a woman can take this pill. It cuts off the food supply for the baby. The baby dies. You then take misoprostol, which induces labor. So you're basically delivering your now dead baby over a toilet. That is the gruesome, ugly truth of what the abortion pill is. This is abortion of a up to 10-week-old fetus who has heartbeat, brain activity, fingers, arms, legs, etc.
Yep.
So this is a small human being being aborted. Now, the plaintiffs in this lawsuit are arguing that the FDA exceeded its regulatory authority in September of 2000 when it approved the 2-pill regimen for the abortion pill, so mifepristone and misoprostol, okay, which then President Bill Clinton had aggressively lobbied for. Rather than increase scrutiny of the pills, the FDA has instead eliminated the safeguards that did exist and has made them easier to obtain, according to Alliance Defending Freedom. In 2016, the FDA increased the gestational age of the unborn baby when abortion drugs are allowed from 7 weeks to 10 weeks, They reduced the number of required office visits from 3 to 1. They allowed non-doctors to prescribe and administer the pills, and they eliminated the requirement for prescribers to report non-fatal adverse events from chemical abortion pills. In 2021, so notice right up before the Trump administration started, all these aggressive loosening of restrictions on the abortion pill. In 2021, right after the Trump administration ended, during the coronavirus pandemic and after Joe Biden was elected president, the FDA announced it would allow abortion pills to be dispensed through the mail. And now I will add, just a few months ago, they're allowing abortion pills to be distributed by major American pharmacies such as Walgreens. Now, what is at stake in this lawsuit? What's at stake in this lawsuit is that this judge, if he rules to say that, hey, the FDA's approval of this drug was wrong, that they exceeded their statutory authority, that they can't give an emergency approval to this because emergency approvals are for things that treat illnesses, and pregnancy is not an illness. And abortion is not a treatment for it. So just the terminology.
Bold strategy, Cotton.
It's a bold strategy. I guess we'll see what happens. It seems a little weird that, 23 years after the fact, we would be pursuing this. But if it's ever going to happen, I guess it'll happen in Texas. And so I can't really express enough, like, how monumental this would be if it was decided and then upheld. So basically, half of American abortions today are done via the abortion pill. So this would just make it illegal.
Yep.
And
It'd be huge.
Yeah. And I guess I wonder then, I'm sure the Biden administration would do everything possible through the FDA to try to reapprove it. And frankly, I actually sort of wonder, would a state actually obey this law?
Yeah, this seems kind of...
Or this judicial decision.
This seems primed for California to immediately appeal and say, well, this only applies here. We're going to ignore a nationwide injunction. And then you very quickly get like the fastest circuit split in history. Yeah,
quite possibly. Well, and I guess I think that's a really interesting question is, would California just ignore this ruling? What would happen? I think you'd finally get a kind of Abraham Lincoln who was the president who famously said, well, the Supreme Court decided this, let them enforce it. Who was that? Was that Lincoln?
Andrew Jackson, was it?
Let's see. Jonathan can look that up. But frankly, what happened throughout the entire course of the Trump administration, as I move my hands like this, for those of you watching on YouTube, by the way, youtube.com/RightToLifeCA, you can watch entire episodes of Right to Life Radio, moving my hands around like
Andrew
Donald Trump.
Jackson.
Andrew Jackson. Okay.
John Marshall has made his decision. Now let him enforce it.
Right. Throughout the whole Trump administration, it was basically Trump would issue a regulation and a federal judge would issue a nationwide injunction to block it. And that happened more during the Trump administration than it had ever happened practically any time ever. And the federal government under Trump always complied with those injunctions, because Trump's a dictator and whatnot. The only dictator ever who just obeyed court injunctions.
I just have to say
were adverse to him.
One thing, John, that is, I realize you and many of our listeners are probably not the largest fans, biggest fans of Jonah Goldberg.
Sure.
But one of the hilarious things that he would always say that I agreed with was, he'd say, no, Trump is not a dictator. A dictator could have repealed Obamacare.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The dictator would have been more effective. Anyway,
That's right.
Anyway. So Trump would always comply with these decisions. And now I wonder, and that's sort of been accepted as the norm, that we comply with federal judge decisions when even if we don't like them, the executive branch has an obligation to follow these legal dictates from the courts, these injunctions. But now what would happen if this federal judge said, nope, the FDA approval was wrong and I'm placing a nationwide injunction on it? Would the Biden administration comply? I don't know. I don't think they would. Would individual states comply? I don't think they would.
Yeah.
Would a company like Planned Parenthood comply? I don't think they would. I highly doubt the Justice Department would prosecute someone for giving out, banned drugs, abortion pills as a banned drug. I'm sure that there would be all kinds of ways in which they would just ignore this ruling.
You're going to get basically DACA 2.0. And for those of you listeners, I'm now looking right at the camera to be interesting.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Wrap this segment up, by the way.
I think that you would see them issue basically broad prosecutorial discretion and just say, well, you know, we have lots of other cases we need to prosecute. So anybody who's, under good faith efforts to manage miscarriages, blah, blah, blah.
Right. We'll be back talking a little bit more about the abortion pill and how it's kind of completely reshaping the face of abortion provision in America. That's next on Right to Life Radio. Back with Right to Life Radio. We're discussing this court case in Texas about whether or not the FDA approval for the abortion pill will be reversed, whether their approval of the abortion pill will be declared to be invalid and therefore outlaw the abortion pill nationwide through a nationwide injunction. And I just want to emphasize how monstrously momentous the Biden administration's regulation changes for the abortion pill were, how big his regulatory changes were. And for those of you watching on youtube.com/RightToLifeCA, and for those of you listening on the radio, I'm waving my phone around. This is the abortion clinic of the future. This is it right here, guys. If the abortion pill can be shipped through the mail, which the Biden administration changed the rules allowing that to happen, this is the abortion clinic of the future right here, holding it, my iPhone in my hands. You go home, you take a pregnancy test, you learn you're pregnant, you whip out your phone, you Google abortion, Planned Parenthood, and within a minute, you're chatting through a kind of text message looking app with a Planned Parenthood nurse practitioner, getting a prescription for the abortion pill right there over your phone.
Piece of cake.
And they're calling it in, and it's self-managed abortion care, they'll call it. Hope you don't have an ectopic pregnancy, honey. And you get the abortion pill mailed to your door. You never have to leave your room. You don't have to get in a car. You don't have to take an Uber. You don't have to take a taxi. You just in your room. Do your parents need to know?
Nah.
Nope. If you're a minor, do your parents need to know? Absolutely not. In many, many, many states, your parents don't need to know. And you can get abortion mailed to your door. This is the ultimate in abortion access. And access, that is the great buzzword. That is the touchstone for everything is, can we get abortion access? So that is why we care so much about the abortion pill issue, is because if the abortion pill is legal and if the abortion pill can be shipped through the mail, it reshapes the entire face of American abortion provision. If abortion pills are flying around through the postal system, another regulation the Biden administration is trying to defend, does it even matter if an individual state outlaws abortion? I think it matters, but boy, there's a pretty convenient way to get around it without being detected. So that's what I'm really concerned about here.
And I think, John, it is already, it is on the verge of changing things. The fact that it is already making up post-COVID over 50% of the number of abortions is huge. And we are we're on the verge of a very scary, brave new world.
Yeah. Yeah, I really think so. For all the talk about, you conservatives just want to recreate the Handmaid's Tale. Like, I don't know, maybe medication that's killing millions of children a year. Maybe that's a little bit more dystopian than whatever it is that you're comparing to Handmaid's Tale. I don't know, an actual family relationship or something. Anyway, never seen The Handmaid's Tale. Have no intention of doing so. That'll do it for Right to Life Radio. We'll see you next time on Power Talk.